A lease purchase is super simple. It just means we agree upon a price. Let's use your price as example. And then from there, we agree upon a timeline that we're both comfortable with until I cash you out. And then the rest, super simple. All it's just going to maintain your mortgage payments on your behalf. That's including your taxes, your insurance, any kind of maintenance and repairs on the home. So you're financially and responsibility free. And then on or before that timeline that I mentioned up front, we would pay off the remaining balance of the loan and cash you out. So it's essentially a delayed cash sale. Does that make sense?
Welcome everybody to Real Estate Junkies. I am Russell Ham, one of your co-hosts. I'm here with Steve Mernick. Steve, say hi.
What's up, everybody? Very cool. First episode. Me and you, Russell.
Yeah, totally excited about this. So just to give you background or a lead up of what we're going to be doing. We're both coaches. I used to be a high school basketball coach for 30 years. So I usually come with a practice plan. The practice plan of our episodes is going to be in the beginning is going to be a Q&A. So we call that our warm up. Mm-hmm. Then we're going to get into a strategy session and or what you get into your game situations, right? If we were talking about any sports or practice. So we'll talk about, we have 4 game plans that we'll talk about, but we'll get into in more depth on each one of them throughout these episodes. And then we'll have a cool down session, which we'll keep it organic at that point. Steve, let's get started with the Q&A, the warm up. And these are going to be questions that come from sellers, right? Cause that's what we mainly talk about, cause we're in creative financing. We talk to a lot of sellers, over hundreds, thousands, right? Steve, we're talking to many sellers over the 4 to 5 years. So we get a lot of questions, right? And then these are also questions that come from our community members that we're a part of, right? Mm-hmm. So the first question, Steve, that I got here from one of our associates in the community, and we base our creative financing through it's called a genius model. And that genius model is mindset, skill set, and systems, right? Mm-hmm. So what we're going to do is we're going to base those questions off of those 3 pillars. Mm-hmm. And Steve, the first question I got from one of our associates is on the mindset aspect is, how do I overcome the fear of the phone?
Okay. So first off, me and Russell have talked to a lot more people that may have wanted to talk to us, but that's a part of calling sellers. So what we've learned from these 3 pillars here, and they're all equally important, don't get me wrong, but maybe it's just entrepreneurship in general, whether it's real estate or, as Chris, our mentor, would say, selling hot dogs on the side of the road, how it is that you talk to yourself internally while you're going through this road of learning something new and trying to become an expert in it can be difficult depending on your expectations with yourself, specifically with the mindset. And I know it's something that I struggle with, and I'm sure I can speak for most people, including yourself, Russell. Trying anything new for the first time, especially with the people that are in our community, we're usually like the people in our community, including Russell and myself, are usually the kind of people who are very good at what they do in their prior career, whether it's woodworking like myself, Russell with all the years of coaching. And what was the word? I said gym teacher last time. You did not like that. You corrected me. Physical educator. Is that what you said, Russell?
Yes. Yeah, because when I got my degree, it was a pre-med degree. So it was actually kinesiology. So we didn't study gym in college, right? We studied kinesiology.
All right. So I guess I would be upset if somebody said, you're someone who builds things. I would be like, it's not specific enough. I remember when I first made my dial, people in the community have heard this story, and I'm sure they all have some wild stories. The first dial I made. So first off, me and Russell have never had any sales background, right? We've obviously we're familiar with talking to human beings, but my first call, it was what sounded like a 200-year-old, very sweet woman. And she said, hello. And I said, oh, and I couldn't speak. And I hung up. I was terrified. I was so scared. When it comes to the skill set of being on the phone, it just takes immense amounts of repetition. That's what we're really focused on. And whether you're used to real estate or any kind of sales position, there's usually always a script, right? This is something you use as a guideline while you're talking to people to keep your questions and everything organized. And you're going to make probably thousands of calls until you remember everything like the back of your hand. So that's a very uncomfortable process, right, Russ? You're trying to learn this new skill set, and in your brain, you're not an expert yet. And you think everybody on the other phone thinks that, even though they don't. So you're battling this thing on the inside between anxiety and just, you want to be the best, right? And then you have this, what's the word Dr. Amanda uses? when it comes to, what's the word, Russell? Imposter syndrome, excuse me.
Yep. Yep.
And that's the hardest part, right? It's just trusting the process, trusting whoever mentor you put in front of you to teach this, and then committing to getting better over and over again. And then also having the right expectations. Like I said earlier, you're not going to be great at anything when you first start. It's the same thing as sports, whatever it is. You think Kobe Bryant hit 1,000 free throws in a row in his first shots? No, it takes years of commitment and years of discomfort to be able to get to where you want to be. And that's obviously something internally can be difficult depending on how you set that expectation for yourself.
And it's easy for us to say, "Oh, just do the repetitions and you're going to get better." But like yourself, I'm going to put it in air quotes if you're not watching the video, in teacher. So I'm going from a teacher and a high school coach talking to mainly teenagers into now I'm cold calling these sellers and I'm trying to buy their house now. Right. So for me, it was the anxiety was there but I treated it as being an athlete, right? You're not going to be great early, right? If you're talking about baseball, you played baseball, right? You put the ball on the tee and you just hack away. And the more hacks you get in, the better you get, the more confident you get. And that's how you get better. But it's that initial call that, and what helped me, Steve, what helped me, I don't know if it helped you, was after a while, I knew that a lot of people weren't picking up. So I would leave a ton of voicemails, and that helped with my anxiety. I knew I was going to leave a lot of voicemails. So my voicemail script got better and better. And then when somebody picked up, and then my heart rate picked up a little bit and I was sweating. Perfectly. It's just the taking action, right? We talk about life rewards action. So it's just taking that first step and then getting the reps in, like you said. All right. So our second question is from one of our associates. We get a lot of questions every week. In fact, daily we get questions probably in our Slack channel. But one of the questions, Steve, is they call a seller. The seller says, "Oh, I relisted it with a realtor." Okay. So now we're getting into the skill set, right? So scripts, right? So how do we pivot based on what the seller says? And there's a lot of things the sellers will say. So you're going to have to pivot one way or the other. And again, repetition. Once you get a lot of reps in, you'll be able to pivot easier. So if someone says, "Hey, Steve, I'm looking to put it back on the market with a realtor," what would you say at that point?
Okay. And the question you're asking is if it is or already is with the realtor or not yet.
No, so you called me. I said, "Yeah, I put it back on the market with a realtor."
Got it. Okay. So a couple things here. In our group, we focus on a very specific niche of potential sellers. What those are: FSBOs, which is known as for sale by owners, expired, canceled, and withdrawn listings. That's people who had a realtor and for whatever reason, either the realtor couldn't sell and they expired in their contract, they have canceled, right? Because they weren't happy with their realtor, or withdrawn is also known as maybe they took it off the market for a certain amount of time with the realtor, potentially with the idea of putting it back on the market with them. So typically in our niche of real estate, we're usually buying from people who don't have realtors. We don't like to step on any toes with anybody because if a realtor has a listing, we're not trying to steal anything from them. There's enough houses out there for everybody. And your question was referring to they've signed with the realtor, correct?
Yeah. So you called me. You said, "Hey, are you selling your home?" I said, "Yeah, I took it off the market for whatever reason to change the price of the home or to change realtors because my other realtor sucked." So Steve, I appreciate you calling me, but I'm relisting it with another realtor.
Okay. So in that situation, it sounds like they're in between finding another realtor, and I had called at a time where they haven't done that yet. Got it. Okay. So usually what I say to that is pretty simple. I say, okay, so let me just first off get an idea. So you had it on the market with the realtor. What's the reason why they were able to sell it? I'm surprised seems like you have a nice home. And now this is where I'm focusing on the main piece, right? It's feedback, motivation. Where are you going? When do you need to be there by? And if you're not there by that timeline, how does that impact you? That's like the most important possible thing we can focus on at the very beginning of the call, right? Because what we're doing, being that we're in an alternate version of real estate, we're looking to see if there is a problem that we can solve, right? That's the piece here. And if for whatever reason they didn't sell yet and they've already tried, that's why we focus on these people. These are people who already have built-in motivation, built-in aggravation with the market. And that's when we're going to start extracting information to see if there's something to solve there. So once I figure out the motivation, I figure out where, when, and what if they don't get there by, that's when I'm going to start diving into educating them on an alternate solution. Let me ask you this. If I could insert motivation, which would be, say, in this situation as an example, mentioned you wanted to relocate. You're relocating several states away for a job. So if I could allow you to relocate to your new job, say in Florida, by insert timeline, you mentioned in 2 months from now, your job was starting and you could get your full price, would you be open to either a lease purchase or owner financing? And when you ask this question, 90% of the people you're going to talk to, they don't know what a lease purchase or owner financing is, or maybe they've heard of it, but they don't know a ton about it. So that's when we're going to focus on the main scripts of introducing what that potential deal type is, how it impacts them, if it'll work for their family, and please ask any questions so we can both see if this is a fit.
Right. Good stuff. I appreciate that, Steve. So this is if they didn't list it with a realtor. Hey, before you list it, let's have a chat because I may be able to buy it without you having to relist it with a realtor. If they did relist it with a realtor, then we're just simply asking, okay, how long are you tied up for? And then we could still, hey, do you mind if we still chat about how I can buy your home? And then when it doesn't sell, it's very important, not say if. When it doesn't sell, well, let's have another conversation, right?
Yeah.
Great stuff. So the third pillar in our genius model is systems.
Yeah.
And this, again, all three of these are coming from our associates that are within the community. I get this all the time because when an associate comes into the community, I get them first. I get eyes on them first. We create the foundation of what we do when they come in the community. Once they get the foundation from me, then they spread their wings and they go to Steve and some of the other coaches that are in the community.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the questions I get from the associates is when or should I get a CRM?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
When do I get a CRM?
All right. So this is going to get the perspective from Russell and I, who were obviously students you're always going to be a student, right? You're not evolving, you're dying. But when it comes to this specifically now, my opinion on this is going to be from somebody who is not great with technology. Over the years of learning it, obviously now I know how to utilize it in a way that's able to scale your business. But here's me and Russell's initial thought about this. So what a CRM basically does is it houses all your lead. You can set up automated follow-up systems so that, hey, if they're not a fit now, in 30 days, we like to do these touch bases just to see if anything's changed. And what these awesome systems do is they can automatically do things so that you don't have to rely on your brain, or set you up in a calendar where it tells you every day what you should be doing, right? Because you're going and putting them in certain what's called statuses. These are incredibly powerful tools. But the other side of this, a CRM that can be difficult to mentally maintain, is the fact that in a very beginning stage of your business, there's a lot of things. You're wearing all the hats, right? You're learning scripts. You're trying to overcome your anxiety on the phone, and you're basically learning the ins and outs of your business. Now, for me, it took me a year and a half to go ahead and take on a CRM because I don't have the skill set where I can walk into that and try to learn the system that does so many different things while I'm trying to learn the most important thing, which is getting familiar on the phone, finding my confidence, internalizing the script so that I can be prepared for any kind of opportunities when they come. Now, but we have people in our community, Russell, that come in that are like tech savvy wizards, right? Those people can just jump right into a CRM, and it's a super powerful way to also move their business forward faster. It really depends on the person. But as you scale, like I was doing a manual system. I'm assuming you might have been, Russell, or no?
I did. I had the 31-day folder. Like we teach you have 31 folders and you put your lead sheets in the 31 days. And on that day, you open it up and there's your leads.
Yep.
But after a while, and like you said, after a while, those folders started getting larger and larger because my lead funnel was getting and so there was another anxiety. I just had all these papers everywhere and these folders everywhere. So I needed a place to house them. And I'm assuming you, in that year and a half before you took on a CRM, you got some deals done, correct?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Before I bought a CRM, Russell, I did, I believe, 6 real estate deals and it was like 15 or 14 months before I brought that on. But one thing I will say, and maybe this isn't everybody, but learning the ins and outs of that manual system and how to manually track and stay the most efficient way, a most efficient version of being organized made it so when I grabbed that CRM, I was utilizing the same techniques. It was just way easier, right? If I remember when I first jumped in, if I grabbed the CRM, me never even using Excel and knowing nothing about any of these programs that probably most people use, I would have been lost and I could have potentially used a CRM as an excuse of why I wasn't going to make my dials because I had all these things, right? With your air quotes
Right.
that I needed to work on. And that's why we say, that's why we're pushing back against the CRM so early, because you're really nervous when you start making calls for the first time. And it's so uncomfortable that we create all sorts of excuses why we don't want to make these calls or rationalize why something else is more important. So we do like to see people really focus on what matters first, and it's just getting comfortable on the phone.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought that up, right? Because your workflow was your paperwork. And then when you transitioned to the CRM, it was an easy transition. It's just, you went from paper to electronic, right? I get that all the time. Like I said, I get new people every so often, and they use the CRM as an excuse not to dial. Oh, I got to get this set up first. I got to get my LLC set up first. I got to get a lawyer first before I make one dial. No, that's ass backwards. You need to be dialing, right? And getting those reps like we talked about. And then, like you said, stack as you move on and you get more leads, and you get better on the phone first, and then start stacking with CRMs and all the other stuff that comes along with owning a business. All right. So we're done with our Q&A session. Now let's get into the meat and potatoes of what we're doing. And that's talking about the 4 game plans. The 4 game plans, if you don't know, in creative financing is a lease purchase, which we're going to talk about in a second. The second one is owner financing. The third is subject to buying a house on an existing mortgage. That's very unique, and we're going to get into that in future episodes. And then what we also call is an executive lease purchase, or in our community, we call it an AO, which is called a sign out. So Steve, let's talk about the first one, which is a lease purchase, 10,000 foot view. We don't need to get in super details. Just explain what a lease purchase is and maybe why a seller would do something like that.
Yep. So what we'll do today, because we'll spread out, this is the most retainable information. We'll focus on the lease purchase on this episode, and then we'll focus on other ones just so we can dive deeper and we have the time to do so. A lease purchase is very simple. Now, what I say right now is the exact scripts that we give you. Me and Russell have said them probably tens of thousands of times, so it'll make sense why it comes out so easily. When we talk to sellers and they say, I don't even know what that is, right? You say, if you're open to a lease purchase, you say it's very simple.
So what is that? What is that? So pretend I'm a seller and ask me.
Be a little meaner to me, so it feels more real.
Okay. Ask me the question. Go ahead.
Would you be open to selling on a lease purchase if you can get your price and do it in a timeline that would work for your family?
What is a lease purchase? I don't even know what that is.
Russell, if you're from New England, you would assume me. Yeah, in New England, be like, I don't know what the hell that is. That's what we was telling you. But no, Russell, completely understand. A lease purchase is super simple. It just means we agree upon a price. Let's use your price as example. And then from there, we agree upon a timeline that we're both comfortable with until I cash you out. And then the rest, super simple. All it's is we're going to maintain your mortgage payments on your behalf. That's including your taxes, your insurance, any kind of maintenance and repairs on the home. So you're financially and responsibility free. And then on or before that timeline that I mentioned up front, we would pay off the remaining balance of the loan and cash you out. So it's essentially a delayed cash sale. Does that make sense? And that's the typical script of explaining a lease purchase.
Okay. And then who is this for?
Okay. And I can give you examples based off of some of my deals. Russell can give you an example of some of his lease purchase deals.
I'll give you an example. Fine.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. The lease purchase that I did, was one of my first deals. It was during COVID, right? The lady was a doctor. She didn't want to have people running through her home. She was very sensitive with germs and stuff like that, being a doctor, being during COVID. So she was very sensitive of people coming through her home, having realtors doing showings and stuff. So I said, hey, I can relieve you of that. What I can do is we can agree on a price, agree on a timeline, agree on your equity, and then I'm going to pay you off that equity on a future date. And then what we can do is you and I can communicate. If once I have a buyer that wants to see if they want to buy the home, we can communicate and we can set up a time so you can clean the house and get it all set up. So she loved that idea. She was all for it. She didn't need her money right away. So go ahead and Steve, talk about that.
No, very similar. Not similar situation, but not needing the money similar. So the majority of the houses that I bought were in Connecticut. I'm in Rhode Island, but Connecticut, we've seen that like Central and Eastern Connecticut is a fantastic market for creative real estate. Our partner, Chris, their own portfolio is like 60% of their homes and they have 60 houses. So it's just a good market for it. So in Connecticut, there is a military base. And it's funny, like 80% of my lease purchases were the same situation. So it was somebody that was in the military that abruptly got moved across the country. So here's what ended up happening in basically every single one of them. These people originally moved, let's say they were in Connecticut and they moved to Fort Bragg or they moved to Texas, to another base over there. What ends up happening is they move abruptly. They leave their home with the real estate agent, assuming that they're going to sell it, but not all houses sell traditionally. So with these, what ended up happening is these people moved across the country or states away. And so they're still paying the mortgage payment on this house, right? While they're not there. Then when they move to this other state, they either have a new mortgage or a rental that they're paying for as well. That means they have two mortgages. That doesn't last very long. I don't care if you're super financially well off, that gets old quick. So these people, the motivation is I'm running out of time to be able to afford this. I thought it was going to sell and it didn't. And then I had come along at the right time where relieving them of that payment was way more important for them than needing their equity today, meaning cashing them out for equity today. So these people was a perfect fit. They were able to move on, relieve them of their payment. I locked in whatever that equity that they had. They didn't have to pay a real estate commission on it. And they were able to net what they were hoping for because I didn't beat them down on price, right? I paid them what the value was of the home. So they were able to net a lot more and they didn't need the money immediately. So they were able to net more over time. So it was just obviously a win for everybody.
Yeah. So 10,000 foot view again, the sellers that love this are the ones that they want to get full price, right? Without commissions, fees, anything coming out of their pocket. Mm-hmm. They want to maximize what they have in the home as far as their equity. They don't want to give it away and they don't need it right away. So that's who the sellers will be. So it's niching down. This is not for everyone. Just let everyone know that a lease purchase isn't for everyone. And we're not trying to sell anything, right? We are offering solutions. And what Steve and I just described were solutions to these unique sellers that were in unique situations, right? Great stuff. Thank you, Steve. Mm-hmm. Now we're in the cool down part of our discussion here. So if the cool down session is it's just organic. If someone wants to enter our community, what do you think what are they expected? What should they expect if they were to enter our community?
Yeah, maybe we just give them our perspective of how it works for us, and it works the same way for us as it did anybody else.
Yeah. We're not salesmen. We're not trying to sell you anything. We're just showing you what our experience is, and if it resonates with you, if it's something that you're like, hey, that's something I want to do, we definitely can help you in that situation. Steve, go ahead and describe what someone would be expected to be doing in this community.
Yeah. So a couple things here. When I came along. I have a dog in the background. That's fantastic. What ended up happening was I signed up for a 15-minute strategy session, okay, with Chris Prefontaine, our mentor, and the rest of the family. And what we basically focused on in that 15 minutes is our goals. Like, what's the end goal of what you're looking to accomplish? Why do you want to build a business? What does it do for you? We always focus on your why. Why? What can this provide you with that your life currently isn't providing you with? Mine personally was I was in no control of my time. I had somebody else was dictating not only where my time was going, but also like the projection of my future, right? What ends up happening with these really high level people, a lot of times they have these skill sets can blow away the people that are above them, but they have some kind of ceiling put on them. And that's what was happening to me. So it started with taking some kind of action because I had been talking about doing something in real estate for the 6 or 8 years that I was unhappy when I was working with this company. And all I was doing was talking to negative people, how unhappy they were. And that's what we talked about. And I got stuck in this world of complaining and being this miserable jackass that just keep talking about this thing he's going to do and never did it. And finally, I just had that 15-minute strategy session. And at the time, getting into real estate, what held me back for so long, not knowing about creative real estate, was how am I going to have money to buy my first house? Is it going to be flipping? Am I going to be a tenant? Am I going to be a landlord to tenants? I have no idea even how to get into it. I don't have liquid funds to be able to buy these houses. How am I going to do this? How am I going to replicate this? I buy one house and I use my own credit to do it. Can I even get another house? I don't know. So this specific avenue of creative real estate, which is great about it, is not using your own credit, not using your own personal funds, and you're able to replicate this over and over again. Okay. So it starts with action. It is as simple as that. That 15-minute phone call then led to being able to, I believe at the time they allowed me to watch a mastermind just to see what this group was about. Right. Now, here's what's important, Russell, and I'll let you chime in on this specifically because it's very important. Doing anything alone is very difficult to get traction because you don't know what you don't know. So what was great of outside of having these mentors, Chris and Zach and Nick and everyone else on the team, to be able to show me where I needed to go, and also here's the mistakes we made so you don't have to make them, was being surrounded by people like myself that were scared, but knew there was something else. They didn't know how to start, didn't know how to learn the skill set, but we had all these systems and skill sets there. And then everything we've learned, me and you, Russell, about mindset has been from this group. Like I knew nothing about financial literacy, right? I mean, nothing, never taught that. And this group was able to provide me with all that as well. So that things in my life, I know I'm going off a rant here, but it's important. Like Rick Abbiati, who's one of our coaches in our community. I remember when he was quitting his job, right? He was like, what was a weird thing that he was nervous about was health insurance. Yeah. But when you're surrounded by people who have done this, that can take these thoughts, this anxious brain that we have that says, oh no, what are we going to do? And you freeze. When you're surrounded by like-minded people in a community, right? And then you're all surrounded, then you have your mentors. It's what a feeling it is, the support, right? That I didn't have support in my other job. So being around people who are looking to accomplish the same thing, that are like, they don't want anything from you. They want you to be successful. You want them to be successful. That's a formula that I wasn't used to that literally has changed my life.
Yeah. Like-minded people, right? We want to hang out with people that are similar. And you're like, yeah, my situation, I was a teacher. I was on year 20. I think I was in year 20 at the time. And I looked at, if I need to work until it felt like a prison, right? Oh, I have to work up until this age in order to get full pension. So I felt like I had 12 years left on my prison sentence. The way I was looking at it was just like, I don't have 12 years. I don't want to wait until I'm 62 in order to collect this pension that's waiting for me in the future. So I was like, okay, I was always fascinated by real estate. And like you, I was going on to bigger pockets and I'm like, I can do the BRRRR method, or I can fix and flip, or I can wholesale, or whatever that was. And again, a lot of it was, you need private money. You need your own money. And at the time, I'm a teacher. I didn't have that capital. So this was a perfect opportunity. I'm like, creative financing. You don't need money to buy these houses. So that's what attracted me. And then the coaching part, right? We talk about being in the trenches with the associates. We're going to get into being in the trenches. Like we're constantly helping our fellow associates out on a daily basis. In fact, right after this, I have 2 one-on-one calls with associates I'm going to help out. That's what attracted me. And they've been with me day in and day out. Accountability, bringing in people that has helped me out financially as far as life insurance and the shred method. If you guys don't know about that, we can get more into that too as well. But that's what attracted me for sure, 100%. So if you guys are interested, again, we're not selling anything. If you want a strategy call, just like Steve and I did, it's free. You're not committed to do anything. Again, we're not trying to sell you anything. We're just telling you our experience and how we have been able to free up our time, right? We talked about time and having freedom. So go to, I don't know, Steve, what's the link again?
Yeah. smartrealestatecoach.com/real estate junkies, Russell.
There it is. You got it. All right, everybody. We will catch you on the next episode. where I think we'll probably dive deeper into lease purchase. Maybe not. Maybe we'll keep it organic. Maybe we'll talk about owner financing. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoy this episode and enjoy what we're going to be bringing as far as content. And we'll see you later.
Yeah.
Bye, Steve.
See you later, Russell.